What a mess. What a mess. Here's a piece of broken trim. Now this looks somewhat ornate. You might even call it romantic. That's the period. Victorian. I don't think this matched the hardware on the floor latches. I'm going to glue that back right now. And so this is a really big job for me. It's a set of double entry doors. They're antique. Not sure exactly what the age is, but the house was built, the estimation is 1860 to 1880. And these were the original doors that went to the house next door. Now this is a double. It's a Queen Anne Victorian. And so the new neighbors asked the old neighbors for their old double entry doors that they removed because the houses are exactly the same. And so, yeah, they brought them to me to be refinished. One side is stained and the other side is painted. I tested it already. It's negative for lead. So what I'm going to do today, I've taken them apart a little bit, and a couple of little pieces that were broken and fractured, I just did a little bit of glue on. I taped up the windows on one side just because I'm really concerned about having something happen to it. It's not the original glass, but it's the original glass that's coming to me, so I want to give it back in the same place. So right now I'm going to remove all the hardware and put that aside. They want the hardware as much as possible to be restored as well, or at least to be reused. And so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to strip this side of the doors. So let's get started. So this, I noticed that it was cut right at the screws or broken or something, but someone has cut them already. So they were even longer, probably not too much longer, because these are the back plates for the door closure, upper and lower. Not really sure if they had a Cremone bolt on it. It would be a nice setup for a Cremone bolt, but for a door like this, it's pretty well over $300 just for the bolt alone at that height. So, and I don't think the customer is interested in doing that right now. So this is kind of interesting. There's the old locking mechanism. There is a little turn handle in here to open it, and then this little function works. Interesting. I don't see anything. There is a bolt right here that, oh, what is that? Oh, it has a keyhole. Hopefully we can find a key. I mark everything and keep it in two separate containers marked as door 1 and door 2. Door 1 being the door with the mail slot, That way I can hopefully try to get everything back to its original spot. I keep all the little nails, every screw, everything. And so hopefully I'll be able to work that out. These screws appear handmade, which isn't surprising for the age. I can tell because the tops are flat and they vary in size and the slot depth, and each one varies from screw to screw. Right now I'm trying to clean out the rust so that I can fit a screwdriver tip into the screw to remove it. I end up having trouble with the knob set itself because one screw ends up to be frozen. I used rust remover and really soaked it for a while. I even tried tapping it gently to remove the rust, but I still couldn't get that one out. I'll have to wait until I turn the door over and remove the lock set from the other side, I hope. You'll see I'm just going to end up stripping around this doorknob. I didn't want to, but I had to cut my losses here. So we can date the door with these screws, if I can get that in the picture. See, when the screws were made, they were made with a flat head, and then the user would have to etch this groove in it, and you can see that the groove is more on one side than the other because it was hand done. So yeah, this really makes this piece pretty darn old. I'll research it a little bit better once I get back, but yeah, sometimes you have to just chop out the rust with I don't like to use my chisels on metal, but sometimes you just have to do it. So I left these all night, and I'm going to take off the plastic and see if there's a little better result. I used a whole thing of stripper, but I have a larger one. A little different, but sort of the same product, just a different company. So let's see what we get today. Here I'm using mineral spirits, and most strippers, chemical strippers, neutralize with mineral spirits or water. But here I'm using the mineral spirits. Asphaltum. What a mess. So I did another coat of stripper and left it on for a couple of hours, and the stained side responds pretty well to this second or third coat. I can't remember. I guess it's actually the third coat, but it's a different type of stripper. It's the same kind of a gel, but it's just a different brand. The paint side responded a little bit, as you'll see. And you might be wondering, like, why do you have one side stains, one door stained side up and another door paint side up? And the answer is, I don't know. They just ended up that way. But I don't mind because I'm able to see the difference between what the stripper is doing to the paint versus the stain. And then when I flip them both over, I'll pretty much know what to expect on the other side. So I'd be a little ahead of the game, I guess. Yeah, so that's why. At this point, I have many containers of this goop. I had to go and get a trash bag specifically to hold it all. So here's where I'm at after several times at stripping this. I can't lift these doors by myself. This stripper needs to be rinsed off to get it off, and I can't lift it by myself, and I work by myself. So I have to find another way of getting rid of all the stripper. It's like goopy. Not only the stripper, but the paint itself is a goopy mess on this paint side. I've actually I've only seen asphaltum, that word that I keep saying. I've only seen that as a very liquefied stain that's used on some antique woods as a wood stain. It's just very black. It's almost pitch black. Um, and I think it's rarely used, but I've never seen it as a paint. And I think that's what this is it's a black tarry material that they used to use as paint. And it's very hardy to the weather, of course, but it's terrible to get off. The stripper does work several times. You have to do it several times, but the problem is now getting the sticky stripper off and the paint itself. So I'm down to scraping it and wiping off my scraper bit by bit and just making a mess. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So this is basically what I'm doing, and I have a different a scraper, you know, with a rounded edge, rounded razor that won't mar the wood itself. So you know, bit by bit, and just scraping it up because I don't have any way to remove the stripper. And these details, you know, I want to preserve. They're beautiful, hand-carved, kind of, it's not a clamshell, but I don't know, flower detail. Probably native to this area in Pennsylvania. So yeah, I'm not going to make you watch me do this. It's just a tedious process. Once I get this thick material off, I can try doing a little bit of sanding. And this, of course, is all hand sanding because it is an antique. And so to restore it, you want to try to work in the same way that it was created, if possible. Sometimes that's not possible, so sometimes you need to use power tools. But we'll see. I just want to take a look and see what it's going to look like with a little bit of sandpaper. Just because sometimes you need just a little bit of a pick-me-up. So this is an 80 grit. And you can see this finish is just goopy. It's just a goopy mess. So and that was an hour and a half just to do that curving, to get it that clean. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you very much for watching this far. This week we did a lot of cleaning on one side of each door. I stripped the paint off of one side and the finish off of the other side. Now, next week I'm going to do that process on the opposite side, which I'm not going to record because you just don't need to see it. Next week you'll see me finish removing the hardware and cleaning up that hardware. You'll see that I'm going to do some wood carving around some of the trim. You'll see me add some wood hardener in places, fix a few broken spots, and get them all put back together and get that finish as good as possible. Now, sometimes when you're restoring antiques, my thought process is that I try to use as natural a process as they did back in the day when they built it. So I try not to use power tools when I'm restoring. Sometimes it just, you have to. So it just is what it is. It isn't that they did all of these things by hand back then anyway. The screws they were partially machined. I mean, we tend to think of the 1800s as, oh my goodness, you know, people didn't wear shoes back then or whatever. They did. They had some machines and they did a lot of really inventive things back then. So this side of this door actually looks like it had a doggy trying to get out. Yeah, you can see the scratch marks there. Some of those things won't absolutely come out. It's different if you have a modern piece of furniture with a chunk missing or with a scratch on it. You know, you can try to fill it. When you actually have a piece of history like this, in my opinion, it's the ghost from downstairs. In my opinion, it's better to leave that, the little bit of history, it's its own personality. And yeah, we're going to make it as good as we can and refinish it and see how pretty we can get it. So yeah, thank you again for watching the video. Stay tuned for the finish next week, and have a good rest of your weekend. And I wish you all good and beautiful things. Thank you.